If you like this podcast, share it with your friends. You can follow us on social media either on Facebook or on Twitter at cleverramblings. If you have any feedback or comments, please mail us at cleverramblings@gmail.com or visit our website cleverramblings.weebly.com. As always, we really appreciate you listening, and now enjoy today's podcast. Welcome everyone, this is the Clever Ramblings podcast. My name is Em.
And my name is Ivan.
And as you might hear, Ivan is here in Germany right now, and so that's gonna be a very intimate podcast. We're gonna talk eye to eye here. So after the last time where
you just made that really weird.
The last time we had the interview, and now we're going back to our 3-topic format that we usually do. So today we're gonna talk about why we think ghosts are kind of weirdly portrayed in movies and series, and we're gonna talk about that. Then we're gonna continue with, are biases always bad, or do they have advantages? And lastly, as this is the last podcast of 2018, we're gonna talk about what we are planning for 2019. So let's start with the ghost topic, and to give you a background why we wanted to talk about it. We didn't know, because where I live there is literally nothing to do, so the only thing we can do is watch Netflix. And so we looked for something on Netflix, and we found
The Haunting of Hill House.
Exactly, yeah. And
which was fire, by the way.
Yeah, that was
a really nice series.
Yeah. But during watching that, we came up with some things that are through like all movies, or like most of the movies and like series, you notice that a lot. And that is the first thing we came up with, like, why are the ghosts always like interact with the children? They never hurt the children, and they only, for example here, like appear to the children in the first place. So the question is that we ask ourselves, are ghosts pedophiles? Why do they only are into children and talk with them, but not the adults? They kill the adults, but the children are never harmed.
Yeah. Because it was like I was we kept thinking. I mean, because they did appear to the adults later, like in some way, but it was like mainly, and I've thought of like all the ghost movies and stuff that I've seen. Like most of them do focus on children can only like see the ghost or interact with the ghost. They're the ones having the nightmares. And the ghost always like tries to befriend them in some way. Like it's always like this weird interaction with like ghosts and children. While meanwhile the fucking adults just get killed and shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just, why is that like, my thing is like, why is that a common sort of plot line that children, is it because like they're presumed to be like, even if it be weird, even if you spin it and say like, oh, they're presumed to be like innocent, and so they're not like maybe like their imagination is not like, because as we grow older we sort of learn what is possible, what's not possible, whereas children have more vivid imagination. Yeah. But still, it's like, it's still this weird thing of
yeah, and mostly ghosts are then friends with the children.
Right, it's like,
I think back, like the children interact with them in a more friendly way, and the adults always get killed.
Right, it makes me wonder, like, because I would like to be friends with a ghost. Like, why is it only like 7-year-olds, 5-year-olds get
telling you they're pedophiles?
Like, that shit is like, you just know, like, that shit is just really fucking weird, right? That we just noticed that, and then like also it's like we also, so that's one thing that we thought about.
So maybe you can give us some thoughts. Why are only
we're never
children
getting,
interacting?
We're never getting anyone's thoughts.
We're starting out 2019 with some feedback.
Maybe we'll get an email at cleverramblings@gmail.com. But it's just, yeah, but we always know that, like, why, like, ghosts always have this like, in a weird way, intimate relationship with children, and they seem to not harm them as often in movies. And I really wonder why that would be, but like, we can't really think of like a reason for that, as to why children tend to be safer and adults tend to get fucked up.
Well, on the other hand, in real life, mostly adults report like seeing ghosts, right?
Well, I mean, you have the one that.
Yeah, we want to talk about that one too.
So there's two other things about ghosts that recently have become very interesting to us. So I guess you could talk about the
the woman that. So I watched a YouTube video of a funny YouTuber, and he basically does reaction videos. And while we're on the topic of ghosts, this came back into my mind where there is this woman.
We will link this in the description.
Of course, yeah, of course, that's super important. But she claims to have had sex with a ghost in the beginning, and now she gets married to a ghost. Now the funny thing is that she says that so she had a fiance, and he was off for working trips multiple times, so she felt lonely, blah blah blah, and then she experienced apparently some presents, and she started like dressing like sexy, and apparently ghost fucked her. But then when the fiance came back, he reportedly saw a shadow of a man leaving the window or leaving the door. When he surprised them, when he came home earlier. So what I would think is that she came up with the whole story, so just that she doesn't seem to be like a cheater. That probably is what happened, and there were not really ghost dick involved.
Man, you gotta believe what she said, man. The ghost was obviously there, because they even broke it up. There's like, how come your fiance, because it was her fiance, right?
Yeah.
How come your fiance could see the ghost, like the silhouette of the ghost, but you couldn't see? Like she can't even see the ghost herself, and like it was just this weird. It was like this weird thing, whereas like she made this elaborate story. And I'm just like, just say you fuck someone else, man. It's like, cause now it's just weird. Like, it's just like, you're weird. Cause now she's like engaged to the ghost. She said the ghost like stopped her in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Or not in the middle of the road, but like in the middle of a crowd, and was like,
hang back a little.
Hang back a little. I want to like propose to you and stuff. I'd say, man, okay. And what would you do if you were dating someone, and she came up to you and said, like, I got fucked by a ghost.
I would be out of there in no time. I'd be like, you crazy? No, I'm not doing that shit. But yeah, also she said like she doesn't have an engagement ring yet because the ghost is very picky, and she then also claimed that it is possible that she can have children with a ghost.
And so, what would that be like? What would that like?
Half ghost, half human.
Yeah, but like half half the baby would be in real existence, and half of the baby would be like in the astral plane or some shit. Like,
the top would be visible, and like the bottom would be like invisible and just like floating around. I don't like.
Maybe they create Casper.
Sure, but besides that, so this was on British TV and ITV, as I think that's not like a trash channel, right? ITV is like, besides BBC, then when I was in the UK, it was on like the first few channels in the UK. So I don't think like it's trash. Maybe it is. I don't know. But
I don't watch TV in the UK. So.
Yeah, so
I don't really watch TV anymore anyway.
But so I wonder, why are they bringing on this woman? First of all, talking about how she fucked the ghost, and then she came back saying that she got married to a ghost, so is engaged to a ghost.
So I wonder, like, if in this case, like, if the ghosts, if they break up in divorce, does like, and say, like, for example, well, we don't know the gender of the ghost, but say if the ghost is a male ghost.
Well, it has to be. How else, like?
Well, yeah. Well,
how else would they have like ghost children?
Okay, well, yeah, okay, but. Say it's a male ghost, and say like, I don't know, say the ghost is rich or some shit, and say she wants his money, right? Like,
but it's ghost money. She
like,
can't pay with
would
anything.
Would it be ghost money? Like, you're gonna pay me in hallucinations? Like,
she's gonna pay you in ghost dollars.
Yeah, like what's that gonna do? I can't roll up to like Walmart and say like, oh, by the way, this is $100,000 in ghost money. Like, what is the conversion rate between ghost money and real money? And then I need the conversion rate between every other currency, because maybe is I mean, with Brexit happening, maybe ghost money is gonna be more
Are
valuable.
there different ghost currencies? Is there ghost dollars? Is there ghost euros? Depending on where the ghost died, did he like?
This shit just got complicated. See, like we really have to like do.
I think we have to get her on the podcast to answer these questions.
I think we do. Maybe we should email. We need to get the ghosts too. But maybe because they can obviously communicate. Are there ghost languages?
Yeah, obviously. Is there a universal ghost language?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, man, I'm telling you, it's like a whole nother world out there. But I mean, but like, in all seriousness, I mean, I don't know. And me and Em talked about like whether we believe in ghosts, and again, because I believe in modal realism that there's anything that you could think of exists somewhere. I would say that ghosts exists in some type of universe. But M definitely, he's a materialist, so he's like, nope.
Maybe in other universe where our laws of physics don't apply, but not. I don't think in our universe or in the universe we know, as we know it right now. So
yeah. But we need to have her up on the podcast because she has some questions to answer. Like we're very curious about like this whole. Yeah, and then the last thing with ghosts that we thought was like. We were at M's parents' place for Christmas, and I don't know what we thought about. We were thinking like, what if because the sun is gonna basically expand and get bigger and engulf the Earth in like 5 billion years.
Yeah.
So, yay, we won't be alive during that time. And so we think once like the Earth is like obliterated. Where are the ghosts going to do? Like, where are they going to go?
Because you can't kill a ghost, right?
Right. So you can't really kill the ghost, right? Because think about it. Would they build like a ghost spaceship and like travel? Because the thing is, like, are they going to start terrorizing like bacteria? Because we don't know of like any other, like life, like sentient life that resembles us in the universe so far. Or maybe they would, but they'd have to travel like a far ass distance to find it. Like, but maybe they can like move faster than the speed of light because technically they're not material beings.
They don't, and they
so the laws of physics don't apply to them.
Yeah.
So where would they go? And for example, what if there's like an alien species that's like super advanced or just looks very different from us, and they look at humans and they're just like because the ghosts look like humans usually, like their humanoid form. And then you just sit there and the alien's like, man, if you get the fuck out my face. Or so like, would they be able to scare aliens? Because aliens may just look at them like, okay, like I don't really understand like what I'm seeing. Like they wouldn't be able to relate to what it is.
And
because
can they kill them then? Because they are specialized in killing like humans. They do like all kind of weird shit to humans, but aliens might be totally different from our anatomy, so they might not be able to kill them anymore.
Yeah. And maybe instead of like and the thing is instead of like for the spaceship purposes, instead of Elon Musk, maybe they'll have like Eon Musk, like because they're travel for eons. Did you get that? That was
You're a dumbass. Yeah.
So these are a lot of ghost questions, man. We really thought about a lot of ghost questions. Why do ghosts seem to be into children, or at least have like this fascination, weird fascination with children and things like that, and what are ghost relationships like, and how was their money like? What is their society like? I mean, what type of things do they have the same problems that we have, or stuff like that? And then of course, can they only attack humans? So, and what are they gonna do like if there's no more humans around? So these are all very important questions.
Yeah, like we should like the funds for like research should go into this.
I told you I was at a talk in Cambridge, and it was like on zombies, like if there was an actual zombie apocalypse. No, I'm real shit. It was like a zombie apocalypse, and there is, I believe it's in Scotland, I want to say, but it's like a theoretical. It's like Institute for Theoretical Zombie Studies. There is one in the world. No, it's serious. It really is. Like, it's a real shit.
Who funds that?
But what it is like they look at it as like a disease that breaks out that makes people like sort of behave as zombies. So it's not like
there is stuff like that in ants. There is
zombie ants and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's
So I mean, so yeah, it's like, but like for example, I think for that talk he was saying like, what if it was like a strain of syphilis that somehow took over people and made them seem as so like they're doing it from like an actual trying to make it like a scientific basis. It's just a funny thing like what they're calling a zombie, but they're trying to put like an actual scientific spin on it. But it is hilarious that they do zombie research.
I have my PhD in zombie research.
So yeah, so these are maybe we need to open up a institute of ghost studies. What are ghosts?
Let's do that. Yeah,
maybe I'll just change my PhD topic. I'll go to my supervisor and say, listen, I don't think I should be studying the brain. I think I should be studying ghosts.
The ghost brain.
The ghost brain. Yeah, think about it. Would their organs function? Man, there's so many things you like. How would their organs function? Would it be the same as us or different?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
would they even have organs? Because they don't really need them. What do you need them for?
But how do they have consciousness then? Because apparently ghosts have consciousness.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they could have a brain. Doesn't mean they have to like have intestines and stuff. They don't have to shit or anything. Or maybe they do.
But why only the brain and no other intestines?
Because you need consciousness from the brain.
Yeah, but why just the brain, not anything else?
I don't know. Maybe they have a heart. Or
that's why we have to go into ghost research to answer these important questions.
Yeah, we're silly.
Yeah.
We're definitely silly. But I mean, put it like this: The Haunting of Hill House was actually a very good series. Like it was pretty damn good. And even though this is like a silly sort of topic, like this is what happens when you're bored and
exactly. If you live in a small village where you have nothing
and you have nothing else to do, we just came up with all these weird questions. So, and with that, I guess we'll go on to the
next topic. Yeah.
So. I really like this, and I think I've mentioned this podcast at least once before. It's this podcast called, I think they call it Cognitive Biases Podcast, where basically it's this guy who just his podcast basically every podcast he does a different cognitive biases. So I think he said on Wikipedia or something there's like 120 something or whatever it is. There's over 100 cognitive biases, and he basically goes in depth and describes all of them and gives examples. And usually when we think of biases, if we say, oh, this person is biased or anything like that, it was always a bad thing, right? But there could be some bias in a way that is good. So, for example, if I'm walking down the street and I see someone who is, to me, looks suspicious, right? Like maybe they have suspicious behavior. They're kind of like, looking around and everything like that, like especially if I'm like on the street alone or something like that. Like my bias, if they're acting weird, is maybe to like go on the other side of the street, or to go a different direction, which potentially could, because that's a bias. That's something that I'm sort of unconsciously in a way, right? I mean, of course I'm making a decision, but in a way it's something that's primarily just instinct to leave a place. And it's a bias, but in this way, it saves my life, right? So I don't think can we consider all bias as negative, right? It's the same with this. Really came from me thinking about like manipulate, like when people say, oh, like if you manipulate someone, But manipulate, if you look up in a dictionary, it is actually sort of neutral. It's a double. It's like science or anything. Like it could be used for good or for bad.
Yeah.
Right? Manipulate just means to change something, to alter something, to influence something. You could do that in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah.
Right? So manipulate even doesn't necessarily always have to be bad. So do you think that biases, even cognitive ones, always are a bad thing? Because in a way they could actually lead to good things.
Yeah. Like you said, just like normal common sense things, like you said, if somebody looks suspicious, you don't approach them, or you don't go. For example, if there are neighborhoods that, like you heard, that there are bad, there are a lot of shootings there, whatever, then your bias may be good to not go there during the night and get shot. So, but of course, on the other hand, bias can always be bad, especially you can see that here in Germany. I heard like people being racist just because they're biased towards like refugees and shit. So it's always hard to distinguish between good and bad, because like most of the time the world isn't black and white. It's always like a mixed bag. Yeah, it's
purple as well.
It's purple. Yeah, sure. If you want to call it purple, black and white makes purple. But yeah, it's never that easy to just say something is good or something is totally bad. There are exceptions, for example, like Nazism, and that's like not okay, or like racism, anti-Semitism, whatever. But like when it's not that simple, I think a lot of the time it's just a mixed bag, and you have to decide on each base or
on each case by case.
Yeah, on each case by case, what you think is good or bad, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder like how does that fit for like even research, right? Because if you think about it, like we think of ourselves as trying to be as objective as possible and eliminate all biases, but sometimes bias in science could lead you to like the way that you view the world, whether it's necessarily empirically founded, could lead to a breakthrough, right? Because if you think about it, like you could be biased and think that the world works. Like for example, we're in an information age, right? And so there's a lot of like a bias may be to describe everything as far as in terms of information.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I was listening to. I was a long time ago. I was maybe not a long time, like a couple of years, but for us that's a long time. But I was looking at this talk about like the universe as a simulation, or I think it was something like that. Universe as a simulation, and one of the physicists brought up that it could be that maybe this idea is somewhat popular, and even is because or the whole entire simulation hypothesis is popular because we're in an age where computers and artificial intelligence are very prominent. So we'll tend to describe everything in terms of that. The same thing you could see sort of, for example, when we were sort of going through the industrial and scientific revolution, where everything was described in as far as like machines, like the body was a machine, the mind and the brain was sort of a machine, this big engine.
Yeah.
Right, with all these gears and everything like that, and or the universe, the way that Newton described the universe or whatever, like from his laws, people talk about how it's like this grand clock and this grand design type thing, right? And you could sort of see like, especially in science, you see that depending on what is the sort of paradigm or like the framework that we're working in at this moment, could somewhat bias how we view our theories and how we think phenomena are.
Yeah, just being in science, you already have a bias in my mind. You try to be like objective, and empirical evidence is the most important. For example, going back to the ghosts, it would like take a lot of hard evidence for me to be convinced that ghosts exist. If like the woman comes up here and says to me, "No, I fucked the ghost. I felt him," I'd be like, "No, you didn't. You're just making up stories. Like there is no scientific evidence that ghosts exists at the moment. So you already have a bias." Maybe another person who is not in science, who is more like spiritual and also maybe believes in ghosts, maybe believes in healing stones or whatever, the person might be, yeah, I guess you did. Apparently you saw the ghost. Even if I didn't see it, I believe in it. So you totally could have done that. But me in science, I'm biased in seeing like, no, all the stuff that isn't scientifically proven doesn't work. If this is a good thing or a bad thing is, again, up for interpretation from the viewpoint.
Yeah, I think in most cases, biases do prevent us from, and it's sort of like a mind fuck of words. in a way, biases prevent us from achieving truth in most cases. However, our truth, if we're ever going to understand the complete truth of humanity, is going to be along with our biases, because part of being biased is part of being human. And so you think of like, in a way, it prevents us from truth, but it is our truth at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And so, because we can't say that humans would ever be able, like we talked about, I think, last podcast, with Dwayne, is that, you know, whether we could ever completely know everything, right? We only know something within the human realm of capability. And so I would say most cases cognitive bias, especially the cognitive biases that particular podcast list. Yeah, most of them are bad. Are bad. Like, for example, when you see someone who's attractive, I forget what it's called, but it's like when you see someone who's attractive, you automatically think other aspects of them are also good. So, for example, you think they're a good person. You think that they're smart. You think a whole bunch of things which we know are not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Right. So you think that all these things correlated and are related to each other, but in reality they're not. You're just looking at one aspect of a person and
But why are you doing that?
Because that would be a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Which is why like again, with like even our conversation with celebrities a long time ago, just because one person is good at one thing does not mean they're good at another one. Like, if I see a celebrity and I say that, or if I say like, okay, I think she's hot, I'm not automatically thinking that. I'm not saying she's not smart, but I'm not going to think she's an expert in.
Yeah,
like,
or just say like in politics.
Or in anything. Like, I would want to wait and see what her views are and listen to her interviews and listen to what she says, and I'm like, oh, okay, she knows the shit she's saying. I don't just think because, oh, you're a celebrity or because you're attractive or because you're this, that all of a sudden you have all these other things together, right? You kind of have to wait and see. But yeah, most of these podcasts are. I'm sorry, not most of these podcasts. I don't want to like start podcasts. Most of these biases, I would say, are when they're in practice, they are quite negative. But I would say they don't have to be negative all the time.
I would be interested in how biases actually emerged during because evolution shaped us. So it would be interesting what was the reason or why did we develop biases. Maybe it was advantageous, maybe not, because not everything is advantageous, but it would be interesting why biases exist. Maybe they started just for survival. Like if there's I don't know, a water place where it looks like lions could be there, you're biased not to go there so you don't get eaten. And it could be a thing that this started this way. Or it's just something that started during us becoming more social and forming these groups and being biased towards other groups, so our group had an advantage.
Yeah. Maybe it's interesting. I wonder. I think we should probably Google and see if there's people who have done like how biases actually emerge. Like, not just. I know there's people who do cognitive biases work, but do they look at? They look at usually. I think from what I know, they look at how irrational it is and why people believe these. But I don't think many people look at why these even emerged in the first place.
Yeah, and it would be interesting which biases do you have from the beginning. It's hard to test for
I would assume children. The ones that are for survival.
Yeah, so then you could find out what actually the reason is, and I think most of the biases come through growing up with what your parents teach you or how your upbringing is. I think a lot of the biases, but it would be interesting what are the original biases you have, and you could also find out why they may have started in the first place during evolution.
Yeah. And I guess with that, we'll move on to
our last topic,
which is the most introspective topic that we've. Well, maybe not, but one of the most interesting. We're gonna look back at our 2018.
Yeah.
And we're gonna think about what have we accomplished and what do we plan to do in 2019. Yeah.
So you may listen to this after New Year's. But we are recording these now 3 days before New Year's Eve, so for us it's still 2018. So just so you know why we are saying what our highlights were in 2018, like a week after 2019 started. So just that you know.
Yeah. So Em, I guess you can go first. What were your highlights of 2018? With the podcast and I guess just in life, and what do you look forward to trying to do in 2019?
Well, first of all, it was the year we actually started doing the podcast as our first year.
Surprise.
I think we planned for doing that for maybe like 5 months before we actually
Yeah,
did start.
yeah. It was like a topic of conversation, like, oh, we should do a podcast and everything like that.
And usually it's something you talk about, but you not really actually start. Even if not a lot of people are listening, it's just fun doing and just talking about stuff. But we did this before, so that we actually went through with it and actually started the podcast, and it's a lot of fun. It's just sometimes Ivan doesn't make the.
Go ahead, shit on me. Go ahead. Just go ahead. So they all know. Sometimes Ivan doesn't what, Em?
I give him a deadline and he doesn't make it, but now I'm used to it, so.
I'm a busy man, okay?
Yeah, he was more motivated in the beginning, but when his work picked up in Cambridge, he was like,
yeah, I got shit to do, man.
I do too, but
you do? I
want to take this podcast to the next level. You said you had stuff to do in Cambridge.
It was a marriage joke. Oh my gosh, it went over your head. But whatever. So, okay, so continue. So, okay, we started the podcast, and so have you enjoyed the experience so far?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The interviews were like really interesting. I preferred the one with the AI, as you probably figured. But yeah, that was fun. Just bringing on people that are experts in their fields. That was really interesting, and also the topics. I don't know. We're just. I heard a quote that said like, until you have your 100th podcast, you really don't know what you are doing. And looking back, like we were all over the place this year. We have to think: is this the format we want? Do we want to keep it this way? But I find it interesting because we reach different listeners. We don't only have like science. We only had music or sports or like philosophy. I think with this you can reach a lot of people that they might not listen to the whole thing, but they gonna tune in on the one that are interested in. So I think that was fun, just figuring out how this all works, and then of course everything that comes with it, like talking about interesting stuff, then doing the cutting. That is also fun because I never did that before. That's fun.
M is the main. He's the only editor that we have. So I mean, you know, I just talk.
He's the brain. I'm the working hand.
He's the man behind the scenes, but not really behind the scenes because he's also part of the podcast.
Yeah, no, but just the whole experience was fun, and yeah, for 2019, I just wanna do a lot more of them. Just bring on a lot of guests.
Yeah, because obviously y'all like them more than us. So
yeah, obviously.
It hurts. I mean, you hurt our feelings.
Well, they don't subscribe. They just listen to it because they get shared on some social media platform where the host is on, the guest is on, and then they listen to it, but they don't subscribe. So we have like 12 loyal fans who listen to it anyway, and we want to thank all of the 12 listeners. My mom stopped listening. When we were back at my place, Ivan asked my mom, "So you're still listening?" She was like, "No, it's just too long." So the other 12, thank you for listening. And
mom, shout out to my mom, because my mom, one of my three moms, my biological mom, she listens every episode. She always
we really appreciate it.
She listens to every episode. So love you, mommy.
But yeah, so hope to do a lot of more interviews, and I hope a lot of interesting topics. I think we talked about a lot of interesting stuff this year.
Yeah.
And we'll see where this goes. Where we are next year, at the end of next year. What we're gonna say, if we say we had enough, we're gonna quit this shit. Or you like, it's going 2020 with like even more interesting stuff to do.
Any life events in 2018 that you wanna?
Sure. There were great ones and there were bad ones. like life is, you always have some bad ones. No, university was good. The masters is going really well, and So my life is going good. I'm happy the way it is right now, but you never know. I'm healthy. That's the most important thing. My family is healthy, so yeah. So how about you? What did you enjoy in 2018?
I guess I'll start with the podcast first. I don't know. I thought at first I was a little skeptical because again, like the podcast game is like very saturated. There's a lot of podcasts out there now, and it's such a big thing to do that I feel like and the main point that I tried to like stress to M, like when we started this, I was like, if we have to make sure that we're interesting, we have something interesting to say, and then we're not just like every other podcast, because if not, we're not going to be able to differentiate. And I think we are different in a lot of ways, but again, because we don't have a big fan base, partly because we're not on iTunes, which is something that iTunes is. We're going to try to get on iTunes and Spotify for next year. So hopefully our first podcast for 2019. Besides this one, I don't know this, but we're gonna try to release this before 2019. But hopefully, the first one for 2019 will be available everywhere. So not just on YouTube. Because some of my friends were like, "Well, I would listen to it, but it's on YouTube, and they can't click out of you. Like it's not like on Apple Podcasts where they could just listen while they walk somewhere or something like that." And so I think we could then also like being on Spotify or iTunes or those other platforms allows like people to randomly kind of search for things, and maybe they find our podcast on accident or blah blah blah.
On accident.
Yeah, but then we get like a more, because I think right now like what we've had quite a good amount of success. I mean, it's still humbling. I mean, we're not like we haven't gone viral yet, no. But we still have a good amount of people who consistently listen at least. And we've
especially for something that is like not out there at all.
Right, it's not out there. The only thing we do is advertise it on our Facebooks and stuff, and that's it, right? And we have a small website and stuff like that. So, considering we've been doing this for like 7 months, already, like it's.
And there was a period where we came out with a podcast every like 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. So we became more consistent, and so I like to so initially starting was hard, but then we didn't know like how long do we want the episodes to be, how many topics do we want to do, like how often we were going to drop the episode. So it was a lot of sort of like technical sort of things that we've sort of, I think we figured out now. And I think definitely so I'm really happy with the podcast and what we've done. And also it's a great it's a great line to just drop in conversation, like, oh, I have a podcast. By the way.
It's always good.
Yeah, so it's like, you can sort of market yourself in that way. So I think as far as 2019, like I said, the whole iTunes and stuff, I think we're going to invite more guests because I just think also it's also a lot better for us, because I think sometimes we're somewhat struggling to try to come up with topics sometimes, and I think if we have a friend or something, or someone we know, or even people who we don't really know, that we'll just invite to the podcast to talk about their podcast and what they do in their research, because again, especially when you get people talking about the stuff that they do, they really get excited and talking.
Like we want to try to do some collaborations with some other podcasts, right? Like ours, of course, not like Joe Rogan or Sam Harris, but like smaller. I'm emailing
Joe Rogan right now.
But like smaller ones who would be interested in talking, so we can like.
Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think that I look forward to it. I think it'll be fun.
It's just the beginning. We've been doing this now for the 15th episode, so it's like I said, it's nothing. We'll figure it out how.
Other than podcasts, I mean, our 2018 was eventful. 2018 has been eventful so far. I mean, there was a lot of like Em said, a lot of ups and downs. But I think now I'm in a much better place as far as like my PhD, and I'm a lot happier with the results, like as far as like the progression of the PhD, and I know more direction of what I want to do, because I think I was in the middle of doing a whole bunch of things that I were interested in and what I could do, but I think I really realized kind of what my calling is, to try to work in education and stuff like that. And so it was a year of sort of self discovery for me, a lot more, and of course I made a lot of great friends and stuff like that. I've met some friends that I don't really well, not friends. I've had still weird encounters, which that should probably be a topic one day. Like all the weird shit that's happened to me when I've went out and done. And
a lot of shit happened to me.
So, but yeah, so life's good, and I'm looking forward to 2019, and see what it holds.
See what's gonna happen on the podcast and on a personal level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, who's listening, and I hope you have a great 2019, and I hope your 2018 wasn't too bad, and you enjoyed our podcast, the beginnings of our podcast, and we hope you're gonna tune in next year regularly as the 12 subscribers like this year. So yeah, also from me, have a happy new year.